Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're talking about true wealth. Have you ever felt like the typical idea of wealth, fancy cars, big houses, all that kind of leaves you wanting more? Like, what if I told you there's a whole other kind of wealth, one that goes way beyond just stuff?
I think a lot of people will be interested in that for sure.
Totally. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah.
So we're diving into this blog post called Unlocking True Wealth: How Generosity Leads to Everlasting Treasure. It was published just a few days ago, actually, on November 5th, 2024, on a site called Positive Affirmations.
Interesting. And what's the post all about?
Well, it's all about finding a different kind of wealth, one that's not tied to material possessions.
Sounds intriguing. The blog post takes its inspiration from a really old source. From the Bible, actually, Luke 12:33. It talks about selling your possessions and giving to the poor to gain treasures in heaven.
Treasures in heaven. And that's a powerful idea. The post clarifies that it's not about literally getting rid of everything you own. It's more about, shifting your focus from temporary things to something that lasts.
I see. So it's like changing your priorities.
Exactly. And the post goes on to contrast earthly wealth with heavenly treasure. What do you think about that?
Hmm. Well, I think there's definitely something to be said for focusing on things that have lasting value.
Hmm.
I mean, material possessions, they can be great, but they're ultimately fleeting.
Yeah.
They can break, get lost, or even be taken away.
Right. And when you think about it that way, it really makes you question what's truly valuable, what actually makes life rich.
Absolutely. And I think that's what the blog post is getting at. It's about recognizing that true wealth goes beyond just material possessions. It's about cultivating qualities like love, generosity, compassion, and a sense of purpose.
That makes a lot of sense. And the post really brings this concept to life with some real-world examples. There's one about this super successful businessman named John. You'd think he'd be all about accumulating more wealth, but he found more fulfillment in supporting an orphanage than buying another luxury car.
That's a great example. It really highlights the idea that true wealth isn't about what you have. It's about what you give. It's about making a difference in the world.
I love that. And John even said, the more I gave, the richer my life felt.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more we focus on giving, the richer we actually become.
Totally. And there's actually some science behind this. Psychologists have been studying how acts of kindness can actually rewire our brains for happiness.
Yeah, that's right. There's a growing body of research that supports this connection between generosity and well-being.
It's incredible to think that giving to others actually benefits us too. And it's not just some feel-good idea, there's actual scientific evidence to back it up.
It's amazing how it all works together.
Speaking of giving back, I also thought the example of TMS shoes was really interesting.
Oh yeah, Tottenham SS, they built their entire brand around giving. Didn't they donate a pair of shoes to someone in need for every pair purchased?
Exactly. It's such a great example of how generosity can also be good for business.
For sure. It shows that storing up treasures in heaven, as the Bible puts it, isn't just for individuals. It can be applied to businesses and organizations too.
So it's like a win-win. You get to help others and your business thrives.
Exactly. And speaking of feeling good, the blog post also delves into some of the specific benefits of being generous.
What were some of the ones that stood out to you?
Well, one that really resonated with me was the idea of putting your beliefs into action. It's one thing to talk about kindness, but it's another to actually live it out. Right.
Totally. Like walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Precisely. And that reminds me of another example from the blog post, the story of Sarah. She decided to simplify her life by giving away a ton of unused possessions. And afterward, she said she felt lighter and more fulfilled.
It's funny how letting go of things can actually make us feel richer. Have you ever experienced that?
Definitely. There's something so freeing about decluttering, both physically and mentally. It's like you create space for something new to come in.
It reminds me of the concept of treasures in heaven. It's about shifting our focus from what we own to who we are and what we contribute to the world.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't measured by the things we accumulate, but by the impact we have on others.
So we've touched on a few of the benefits already, but the blog post lists even more. Things like fulfilling teachings by putting them into action, leaving a lasting legacy, experiencing inner peace and joy, and even strengthening relationships through compassion and trust.
It's a pretty compelling list.
Right, totally. And there's actually a lot of scientific research that supports these claims. Positive psychology studies have shown a strong link between generosity and overall well-being.
It's fascinating how science is catching up with what spiritual traditions have been teaching for centuries.
So it's not just a nice idea. It actually has real tangible benefits for our mental, physical, and even spiritual well-being.
Absolutely. Generosity is truly a powerful force.
But I'm sure some people are thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually put it into practice? Where do I even begin?
Well, I'm glad you asked because the blog post actually offers some really practical steps on how to start storing up treasure in heaven, so to speak.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's
Wow.
get practical. What's the first step on this journey to true wealth?
Well, I'd say the first step is probably the most straightforward. Regular financial donations to charities or causes that resonate with you. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. Even small, consistent contributions can make a difference.
So it's not about being a millionaire philanthropist. It's about incorporating giving into your regular financial habits, even if you're starting small.
Exactly. It's about making giving a regular part of your life, not just something you do when you have extra money. It's about recognizing that we always have something to share.
That's a really empowering thought. And it's not just about money, right? What are some other ways we can cultivate generosity in our lives?
Well, the blog post emphasizes the importance of volunteering your time and skills.
That makes sense. Our time is precious. So giving it to others is definitely a meaningful way to show we care.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to volunteer. You could serve meals at a shelterment or youth, or offer your professional skills to a nonprofit. What are some skills or talents you think you could share with your community?
Hmm. I think I'm pretty good at organizing things. Maybe I could volunteer at a local food bank or something.
That's a great idea. And remember, volunteering doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. Even an hour or two a month can make a difference.
So it's about finding something that aligns with my passions and skills and then making a consistent effort to contribute.
Right, exactly. And speaking of skills, the blog post also encourages us to think about how we can share our talents through teaching or community programs. Like, think about what you're good at. Maybe it's playing an instrument, gardening, writing, or anything else. And consider how you could share those talents with others.
This is where it gets really interesting because it's not just about giving money or time. It's about recognizing that we all have unique gifts and talents that can benefit others.
Absolutely. Sometimes the most unexpected talents can bring the most joy and value to others. It's about tapping into your unique strengths and finding creative ways to share them.
So instead of focusing on what I lack, I can focus on what I have to offer and how I can use those gifts to make a positive impact.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance and recognizing that we all have something valuable to contribute.
I love that. And it doesn't always have to be some big grand gesture.
Right. The blog post reminds us that even small acts of kindness in our daily lives can contribute to our heavenly treasure. It could be as simple as holding the door for someone offering a genuine compliment or helping a neighbor carry groceries.
It's amazing how those little things can add up and create a ripple effect of kindness.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a mindset of generosity and compassion in every interaction we have.
It's like weaving generosity into the fabric of our daily lives. So we've covered a lot of ground biblical inspiration, real-world examples, and practical steps. But what does this treasure actually consist of? What's the essence of this heavenly wealth?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that the blog post delves into as well. It goes beyond just rewards or fleeting good feelings.
Mhm.
The real essence of heavenly treasure is about aligning your actions with deeper values, like love and kindness.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are the key components of heavenly treasure that the blog post highlights?
Well, the post focuses on three: unconditional love, humility, and service, and lasting peace. These are qualities that you can't buy and that contribute to a truly fulfilling life.
Okay, let's start with unconditional love. It's a term we hear a lot, but what does it actually mean in the context of true wealth?
It's about choosing to see the good in others, even when it's challenging, and responding with compassion rather than judgment. It's not about becoming a doormat or tolerating bad behavior. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and choosing to act from a place of love.
That sounds beautiful, but also incredibly difficult in a world that often seems to reward self-interest above all else.
You're absolutely right. It takes conscious effort and cultivation. But the blog post suggests that as we practice generosity, this type of unconditional love starts to flow more naturally. It's like we're tapping into a deeper wellspring of compassion within ourselves.
So it's a practice, not a destination. And as we become more generous, we also become more loving.
Precisely. It's a beautiful cycle of growth and transformation. Now, next on the list is humility and service. These qualities are often seen as weaknesses in our culture, but the blog post presents them as essential components of true wealth.
It's definitely a different perspective for sure. But how do they fit into the bigger picture of heavenly treasure?
Humility is about recognizing that we're not the center of the universe. It's about understanding that our lives are part of something much larger than ourselves. And from that place of humility, service naturally flows. We become more willing to use our time, talents, and resources to contribute to something bigger than ourselves. Not because we have to, but because we genuinely want to.
So it's not about self-aggrandizement or seeking recognition. It's about contributing to something meaningful beyond our own egos. That's a powerful concept.
It is. And finally, we have lasting peace. This is something I think we all yearn for, but it can feel so elusive in our fast-paced, often chaotic world. How does a blog post connect lasting peace with heavenly treasure? The post suggests that genuine lasting peace doesn't come from external circumstances or material possessions. It comes from aligning our lives with a higher purpose. When we live generously, cultivate love and compassion, and dedicate ourselves to serving something greater than ourselves, we discover a source of peace that goes beyond the ups and downs of daily life. Have you ever experienced that feeling of peace, that deep sense of calm that comes from knowing you're living in alignment with your values, regardless of what's going on around you?
I think I have. It's like those moments when you're so engrossed in helping someone or contributing to something you care about that all the noise of the world fades away. It's a truly special feeling.
Exactly. It's a peace that's rooted in purpose and meaning, a peace that can't be shaken by life's inevitable challenges.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation already. We've explored the biblical roots of true wealth, looked at inspiring examples, and even discussed some practical steps to integrate generosity into our lives. It's amazing how this simple concept can have such profound implications for how we live and what we value.
It really makes you rethink your priorities, doesn't it? But we've still got lots to unpack, so let's dive even deeper into this concept of heavenly treasure.
Okay, so we've been talking about these three key components of heavenly treasure: unconditional love, humility and service, and lasting peace. It's powerful stuff, but I'm curious, how do these lofty ideals actually translate into a tangible sense of wealth? I mean, we can't exactly deposit peace and love into our bank accounts, right?
Right. That's where things get really interesting.
Mhm.
The true wealth that comes from generosity, love, and service isn't something you can measure in dollars and cents. It's a wealth that's felt deep within us. It's a feeling of being truly rich in spirit.
It's like an inner richness that no amount of money can buy.
Exactly. It manifests as a sense of inner peace, joy, purpose, and a profound connection to something greater than ourselves. It's a richness that enriches not only our own lives, but also the lives of those around us.
It makes you think about the whole concept of legacy. The blog post mentioned leaving a lasting legacy as one of the benefits of generosity. What are your thoughts on that? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind, and how can generosity play a role in shaping that?
Hmm. That's such a powerful concept.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think beyond our own lifespans and consider the ripple effects of our actions. When we prioritize love and kindness, we're not just impacting the present moment, we're shaping the future. It's like weaving a tapestry of goodness that extends far beyond our own time on Earth.
I love that analogy. Each act of generosity, each expression of love adds another vibrant thread to that tapestry. It's a beautiful way to think about the impact we can have on the world. But how do we make sure that legacy of generosity and love truly endures? Is it just
Mhm.
about grand gestures or leaving behind money?
It's so much more than that. It's about passing those values on to future generations, inspiring others to live with purpose and compassion. It's about creating a ripple effect that continues to spread long after we're gone. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by modeling those values in our own lives.
It's like leading by example, right? Showing our kids, our friends, our communities what it means to live generously and love unconditionally, not just talking about it.
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words. When we consistently demonstrate generosity, kindness, and compassion, we create a powerful example for everyone around us. We're planting seeds of goodness that will blossom in the lives of others.
I love that image of planting seeds of goodness. It's so hopeful. And who knows, maybe those seeds will inspire a whole new generation of givers and change makers. But I do have a question. We've been talking about all the amazing benefits of generosity, but is there a downside? Can we take this generosity thing too far?
That's a really important question. While generosity is usually considered a virtue, it's important to approach it thoughtfully. There's a delicate balance between generosity and self-sacrifice.
So it's not about giving blindly, it's about being strategic with our giving, making sure we're not depleting our own resources in the process.
Exactly. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say. It's vital that we take care of our own well-being so we can effectively care for others.
So it's finding that sweet spot between giving to others and nurturing ourselves, recognizing that both are essential for a truly fulfilling life.
Precisely. And it's also crucial to be aware of the potential for manipulation. Unfortunately, there are people who might take advantage of someone's kindness.
That's a good point. It's about being discerning with our generosity, trusting our gut instincts.
Absolutely. If something feels off or you're ever pressured into giving, it's okay to step back and assess the situation. Generosity should never feel like a burden or an obligation. It should come from a genuine desire to make a difference.
It seems like a lot of this comes down to intuition and self-awareness,
Yeah.
listening to that inner voice that tells us when something is right or not.
Exactly. Trusting your inner wisdom is key. And remember, true generosity should feel joyful, not draining.
So let me ask you this. We've talked about generosity on a personal level, but what about on a societal level? Can embracing these principles of true wealth actually create a better world?
It's a big question and one that I'm deeply passionate about.
Hmm.
I truly believe that embracing these principles can have a ripple effect throughout society. When we prioritize generosity, compassion, and service, we create a more just equitable and compassionate world.
It's like shifting our collective values from competition and scarcity to cooperation and abundance.
Exactly. Imagine a world where everyone felt empowered to share their gifts, where everyone's needs were met, and where we all work together to create a better future for everyone. It sounds idealistic. I know, but I believe it's possible.
That's a beautiful vision. But how do we bridge the gap between that ideal and the reality we live in now? Where do we even begin?
It starts with each of us. It starts with embracing the principles we've been talking about today: generosity, compassion, service, and a commitment to living a life of purpose and meaning.
It's about recognizing that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how small. Whether it's donating to a local charity, volunteering our time, or simply being kinder to the people we encounter in our daily lives, every act of generosity counts.
Absolutely. And as we cultivate a spirit of generosity in our own lives, we inspire others to do the same. It's a contagious energy, and it has the power to transform our communities, our nation, and even our world.
That's a really empowering thought. And it takes the pressure off, too. It's not about single-handedly saving the world. It's about doing what we can where we are with what we have.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the positive impact we can make, rather than getting overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges we face. It's about believing that change is possible, one act of generosity at a time.
This conversation has really opened my eyes to the transformative power of generosity. But there's one thing I'm still pondering. How do we reconcile this idea of true wealth with the very real financial struggles that many people face? I mean, it's easy to talk about generosity when you have enough to give, but what about those who are barely scraping by?
That's a crucial question, and one that we can't shy away from. It's important to acknowledge that not everyone has the same financial resources. However, true wealth isn't limited to money.
So you're saying that even when money is tight, there are still ways to cultivate generosity and experience that inner richness.
Absolutely. Remember, true wealth is about more than just material possessions. It's about the qualities we cultivate within ourselves: kindness, compassion, gratitude, a willingness to help others.
So even if we can't give financially, we can still give of our time, our talents, our energy.
Exactly. Think about it. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand, those are all acts of generosity that don't cost a dime, and they can have a profound impact on the lives of others.
It's about recognizing that every act of generosity matters, regardless of our financial situation. It's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we have to offer, even if it's just a moment of our time or a listening ear.
It's about realizing that true wealth is not a privilege reserved for the wealthy. It's a way of being that's accessible to all of us.
I love that perspective. It reminds us that we all have something to give, something to share, something to contribute to the world.
And it's in that giving, that sharing, that contributing that we discover the true meaning of wealth.
This has been such an inspiring conversation. I feel like we've only just begun to explore the depths of this concept of true wealth, but unfortunately, we're running out of time for this deep dive.
But the exploration doesn't have to end here. We can continue to ponder these ideas and reflect on our own experiences and discover new ways to cultivate true wealth in our own lives.
That's a great point. This conversation has definitely sparked a lot of thoughts and questions for me, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so. And I hope they'll take these ideas and run with them, explore them further, and discover what true wealth means to them.
Wow. It's amazing how much we've uncovered in this deep dive on true wealth. We started with a simple blog post and ended up exploring some really profound ideas.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? I think it speaks to the power of this concept. It really gets you thinking.
For sure. And as we wrap up, I'm curious what has resonated most with you from this whole exploration?
Hmm, that's a good question. For me, it's the reminder that true wealth isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's not about reaching some perfect state of generosity or selflessness, but rather about making those daily choices to align our actions with our values. It's about striving to live a life that's rich in meaning, purpose, and connection.
That makes a lot of sense. And something that keeps coming back to me is the interconnectedness of it all. Like, if we truly believe we're all connected, that our actions impact others, then it just makes sense that cultivating generosity would lead to a more harmonious and fulfilling world for everyone, right?
Absolutely. It highlights the power of collective action. When we choose to live generously, we're not just benefiting ourselves, we're contributing to a greater good. It's like we're all weaving together this tapestry of kindness and compassion that can uplift and transform our communities and our world.
It's such a powerful image, each of us holding a piece of the puzzle. And when we come together with generosity and a shared commitment to something bigger than ourselves, we create a more beautiful and whole picture.
That's a great way to put it. And it's important to remember that each piece of that puzzle is unique and valuable. Everyone has something to offer, regardless of their circumstances. It's about recognizing and celebrating those individual gifts and talents and encouraging everyone to share them freely.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on wealth and abundance. It's not about having more, it's about being more. It's about cultivating those inner qualities that make us truly rich in spirit no matter what we own or don't own.
Well said. And it's about sharing that inner richness with the world. It's about creating a world where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered to live a life filled with purpose and meaning.
This deep dive has been truly inspiring. We've covered so much. From the biblical roots of true wealth to practical steps we can take to the potential for collective transformation through kindness and compassion. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
I like that. What do you have in mind?
So my question for everyone listening is this: what small act of generosity can you do today to start building your own everlasting treasure?
I love that. It reminds us that we don't have to wait for some grand opportunity to practice generosity. It can start right now with something small. A smile, a helping hand, a kind word, a moment of our time. Those small, everyday acts of kindness can truly make a world of difference.
They really can. And those small acts not only impact the lives of others, but they also nourish our own souls and contribute to our own sense of true wealth, right?
Exactly. It's a beautiful cycle of giving and receiving of inner and outer abundance.
Well said. This has been another enlightening deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored true wealth. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep sharing your unique gifts with the world.